Hello and happy Go By Bike Week. It is Monday, May 30th, the first day of Go By Bike Week. And all week we're gonna be posting a little mini movement video to support your riding. Today's video is looking at a movement that I quite enjoy and I give to a lot of clients to get their necks moving a little bit happier. So it's a lovely way to prepare for a bike ride, to recover from a bike ride, and maybe even to split up a longer ride. So if you're on a big tour or a long road ride and you have a little moment or you're taking a bit of a break, this is a lovely little dose of motion for your neck. I am going to do it in a bit of a challenging position for some. I'm going to do it from this place here, seated on the floor. So bear with me because I know that this position may make some people's knees, feet, ankles, any and all of the above cringe. So I will show some modifications at the end, but this is going to be my base position. As far as equipment, you don't really need anything unless you're looking to add some props to make your position a bit more comfortable. So some potential props are some yoga blocks, maybe a yoga bolster. I've got a rolled blanket here, and then this I'm pretending is a coffee table, and I have a little stool that I'm going to pretend is a chair. So the basic movement though, I'm gonna show from this position here, and then I'll show how you could use those props to maybe make yourself a little more comfortable. Before we get into the movement though, I'm gonna preface this by saying please respect your neck and the rest of your body and set yourself up to get this movement feeling as good and as healthy as possible. So avoid positions that provoke pain, pinch, dizziness, anything that, let's stay away from things that feel a bit problematic. And if we do provoke those symptoms and we weren't aware that our neck was sensitive to some of these motions, maybe it would be wise to have a hands-on therapist or your physician, your healthcare provider, check in to make sure everything's moving well in that neck and upper spine. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to set myself up in this little kind of low-seated position. My hands are going to land on the floor. I want those hands to land easily on the floor, and if they don't, if I end up kind of rounded like this, that's where my yoga blocks come in. So I might demonstrate this with the yoga blocks. It's a better position for many. I'm going to land my hands on either side of my knees. I'm going to press those hands into the floor or into the blocks. Okay, so that's my base position. I'm just going to maintain this slight little downward pressure as if I'm trying to push my hands through the blocks slightly. Notice how that kind of lifts me up and keeps my spine nice and long. And then I'm going to start off by curling into cervical flexion. So the way I think about this motion is as if I'm a cinnamon roll, or I'm trying to turn my neck into a cinnamon roll. So I'm going to press those hands into the block. I'm going to tuck my chin as close to the top of my throat as possible, and then I'm going to continue to tuck as if I'm rolling or imagining that I'm rolling my neck into a cinnamon bun, taking it as far forward in that roll as possible. And then I'm going to unroll, but I have to unroll from the bottom, right? Because I'm unrolling my cinnamon bun. So I'm going to unroll slowly, drawing the neck back into its starting position. The chin is the last piece to leave the throat. So this is sort of my starting position. Eyes were forward, and then I moved into that flexion. Slowly rolling and unrolling, and this time when I unroll, pardon my funny voice, I'm going to let myself come past this looking forward and continue on up into a bit of extension. If it feels safe to you, we can take that gaze in the nose up overhead, but I'm going to maintain this downward pressure into my hands throughout. And then I'm going to start by tucking at the top of the neck, rolling that neck into a cinnamon roll. Top of head comes down towards the floor, and then unroll. So you can move even slower, really each of those joints within the spine and getting them each moving into, doing your best to get each joint moving into that rolling or flexing and extending motion. Throughout it all, I'm just going to maintain this slight downward pressure. Why am I doing that? Because if I don't, we often see funky things like this, which, yes, my neck is moving, but so are a bunch of other pieces. So those are often little movement leaks that maybe we want to control when we're really trying to nourish those specific joints within the neck. Okay, so slight little downward pressure helps me to control these other bits, and honestly makes this a much more juicier and satisfying kind of sensation, especially when we get into that little tucked. I get some nice lengthy sensations here, and even when I look up overhead, I get a little bit of length through the front as well. Okay, so if you're watching me do this and you say, oh, well and good, but those knees, look, my kneecaps are gonna pop out of my knee joints if you make me kneel on them like that, or my feet and ankles are gonna cramp up and be very unhappy if you make me sit like this. So our options, if your primary limitation is looking at what's happening in my feet and ankles and you know that they're gonna not be friendly, you could take a rolled blanket like this or a rolled yoga mat and just tuck it under the fronts of the ankles. Now my feet can kind of relax and I can still sit back. I did bring myself a little farther up, so the ground's a little farther away, so I might need my yoga blocks underneath my hands. So that's option for feet and ankles. If knees are the limitation, you might want to take that rolled blanket or yoga mat and tuck it behind the knees. Once again, I now might need my yoga blocks or some other type of raised surface, and I might need to elevate them even more. And if both knees and ankles are a bit of a limitation, but you still want to do this on the floor, and you have a yoga bolster or something similar, I could straddle this guy, ride it like a horse, and I can come into that same position here. So now my knees, my feet are still fully extended, but I'm not, my weight is through the bolster, so they're much happier if they were unhappy to begin with, okay? So there's my floor-based modification. If all of this is still looking like this just is not accessible to your hips, knees, feet, ankles, any of the above, then grab a coffee table and a chair, and you're gonna do this seated nice and tight, close to your coffee table. So I've got my knees right up close to the coffee table. I can then fold through my hips. I can press my hands into that edge of the coffee table, and I can work through the same cinnamon roll neck. Okay? So reach out and if you have any questions or concerns. Definitely avoid anything that provokes any pain, pinch, dizziness, lightheadedness, anything that you wouldn't expect to feel just from moving a body part. Sometimes necks can be a bit sensitive to some of these motions if they're not really, if the motion isn't super controlled or there's a little bit of sensitization in some of those joints in the neck. So touching base with a physio, a chiro, an osteopath, or your chosen healthcare professional might be wise should you feel any of those kinds of symptoms when doing this movement. All right, thanks and happy Go By Bike. Don't forget to log those rides.